Since lockdowns and the coronavirus pandemic, whether we like it or not, it looks like self-tapes are here to stay, including for drama school auditions. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing my tips for drama school audition self-tapes. If you're new to my channel, welcome to the Performing Arts and Me. My name is Millie and I'm currently a second year MT student training at London Studio Centre. On this channel, I make videos about the performing arts, my general life experiences, drama school auditions and things like that. So if you're auditioning or if you're interested in those kind of things, please do consider subscribing because I'm really trying to grow my channel at the moment and it would really help me out. So if you didn't know already, I did 2 sort of years of drama school auditions. I did auditions for entry in September 2021 and then I did auditions for entry in September 2022. This meant that the first year of auditions was during the coronavirus pandemic, which meant I had self-tapes for pretty much everything for the first year. I didn't have a single in-person audition in the first year. I had a couple of like Zoom call parts to my auditions, and maybe if I got to later rounds of the auditions, some bits might have been more face-to-face, but for me in the first year I had no face-to-face sections to my audition. Even in the second year that I was auditioning, when I was on my foundation year at Bird and the country was no longer in lockdown, I still had to submit 3 self-tapes as part of the first round auditions for some of the schools that I was auditioning for, and I'm pretty sure that self-tapes are still a part of first round auditions for some drama schools. Now, in my opinion, there are pros and cons to self-taping for auditions, but that's a whole other topic for another video. So today I'm just going to be giving some tips. My first tip is to read the guidance that the school gives you, or sometimes I had like a video, they'd send a video with like guidance on how they wanted their self-tapes done. So be sure to read or watch the guidance for each school because it can vary a little bit from school to school. For example, in the first year that I was auditioning, I auditioned for the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama, and I remember that they wanted a slightly different shot from what most of the other schools wanted. I think they wanted either a full length or 3/4 length shot for one of your monologues or songs or something like that. I can't really remember, so definitely read the specifics if you're auditioning there. But the point of that little anecdote is to say that it can vary from school to school what they want, so be sure to read each school's guidance. If they don't tell you how they want it filmed, generally, for songs and monologues, it's like a horizontally framed video. But if you've got any questions, then I suggest getting in touch with the schools. But yeah, I'd say to make sure you read the specific guidance. My next tip, particularly if you haven't done much self-taping before, is to do a little bit of research on it, which you're probably already doing if you're watching this video. But along with this video and advice that the school gives you, places like Spotlight, for example, I think has an article on self-taping. So have a little read of things like that just to get some ideas for the types of things you might want to take into account when you're self-taping. My next tip is to experiment before it gets to the filming day. So practice your lighting, your sound, the clothing you're going to wear, what background you're going to use. Just test things out and see what works. You might want to film a couple of trial runs of like your monologues or songs. For example, if I was doing a monologue and I was doing a big gesture like this, my hand's not going to look particularly normal because it's so close to the camera compared with my face. So yeah, thinking about things like that and doing a couple of trial runs beforehand. Also with your songs, it might be worth experimenting with the sound, like where you're going to put your speaker or your whatever you're using to play your music off of, in relation to yourself and also in relation to the camera. My next tip is to do the prep that you would normally do if it were a face-to-face audition. So prepare your monologues, prepare your songs, but also for self-tapes, they might have sent you some dance to learn, in which case I would advise learning that in advance of the day that you try to film, or you might need to create your own dance solo or perform a dance solo. So do all your normal preparation work that you'd do if you'd been sent material in advance of a face-to-face audition, or if you had to prepare material in advance of a face-to-face audition. Also preparing your slate, which is like when you say your name and what you're going to be performing. You kind of do that in a normal audition as well, so I guess that's something that you'd prepare for that. But yeah, for most self-tapes you'll do a slate beforehand, so try and prepare what you're going to say for that. Check what the school wants you to say in your slate. Do they want you to say your name? Do they want you to say the name of the monologue or the name of like the action scene or the play or the playwright, or like what do they want in it? One of the schools that I was auditioning for, I think it was Italia Conti, wanted you to say your UCAS number in your slate as well. So if you have something like that, then learn that in advance of filming as well, just to make it easier. My next tip is to have a think about where you're planning to film your self-tapes. So for your song or monologue, you probably want somewhere that's not too echoey. And then for your dance, if you've got access to a dance studio, then great, you can use that. But if not, then don't panic. If you can hire one, then great. But if not, then you can film at home. I filmed all of the auditions that I did for the first year at home. I filmed the dance sections on carpet. So yeah, don't panic. It's not the end of the world if you don't have access to a dance studio. You definitely won't be the only one, so don't stress about that. My next tip is to limit yourself in terms of either the number of takes that you're going to do for each section of your self-tape, or in terms of how long you give yourself to get all your self-tapes filmed, or saying, right, today I'm going to get this part of my self-tape filmed and after today it's done. There will very often be something more that you want to do. You want to do this something slightly differently, but to be honest, after you've done a certain number of takes, you're going to just be tiring yourself out and you're not going to be giving your best performance. Whatever number you choose, just set your limit beforehand and try your best to stick to it, no matter how tempting it is to keep going. My next tip is to decide if you're going to do it on your own or if you're going to have someone helping you with your self-tapes. So the first year there was at least one, possibly a couple, where I had someone helping me, but most of it was on my own. The benefit of this is that you can perform without feeling self-conscious because it's just you and a camera, but it does mean you have to do things like start your own music, check that you're in the frame, readjust your camera if needed, so it might take a little bit longer in that sense. The second year that I was doing my auditions, I did my songs and my monologues on my own, but for the dance sections I generally had a friend to help. So we'd book out a studio at college at Bird, and we could help each other with like giving feedback in between takes, and also like making sure we were in the shot, pressing start on the music, moving the camera a little bit if we're going out of shot. So yeah, that was really helpful. When you're filming, even if you've got like a friend to help you, I'd suggest either using a tripod or like I have like a mini tripod, and just putting it on a table, or like holding your arms on a table so that the footage is nice and still, and then only panning it if you need to. A little tip with your music is to either have a friend with you to help you record it so they press play, or to leave a slight pause at the start of the recording on your music. So if you have your backing track, for example, for your song, and you get a software and then you just leave like 5 seconds of silence at the beginning, and then your track starts, and then you export that so that when you're doing your self-tape you can do your slate, bend down, press play, have a second to find your spot and compose yourself, and then the music will start, rather than you like bending down, pressing play, and then it's already started and you're still getting yourself ready before you have to sing. My next tip is to practice slating. This is still something that I'm not great at. For me, it's kind of the most awkward part. Yeah, I think that's something that I still need to work on even now. So I definitely recommend practicing beforehand. My next tip is to not leave it too late to film your self-tapes. Don't forget that because it's a self-tape, it's not just you film it and then you're done. You've got to probably cut it together, because you might have like your monologue, your song and your dance, and normally they want that on one video, so you might have to cut it together. And then after you've edited it together and you've exported the video, watch it all the way through, just in case for some reason like the audio is missing from half of your self-tape or something and you don't realise. Just once you're ready to submit it, just watch it through, just double check that it's all there before you submit it. If you're uploading it to YouTube, I'd recommend sending the link to someone else so that they can check that they can access the video, just in case you've accidentally listed it as private rather than as unlisted, and so they can just check that YouTube hasn't muted your video or something like that. I would also suggest aiming to submit your self-tape before the deadline, just in case there's delays with uploading it, or when you watch it back you realise that there's some issue that means that you can't submit that one for some reason and you have to redo it. Just give yourself a little buffer zone so that in case something goes wrong, you're not left stressing and short of time. Okay, and I think that is everything for this video. If you want like practical tips on filming self-tapes, like on where you should look or the lighting, tips like that, then let me know in the comments and then I'll try and make a video about that for you. If this has been helpful, please do give it a like, and like I said, if you haven't subscribed already, I'd really appreciate it. I'm trying to grow my channel and I'd really appreciate you subscribing. And just a little reminder that these are just my tips. I'm not on an audition panel, I'm just a drama school student, so these are my tips, but if you have any questions or you want to double check anything, then I definitely recommend doing that. Please check the school's advice, and if you have any questions, then I definitely recommend contacting them about that rather than just taking my word of something that I've said on here. Always feel free to double check. Anyway, I think that is everything, so thank you very much for watching. Bye!